The tablets were never meant to be found. 6,000 years buried in darkness, their cuneiform symbols still sharp as the day they were pressed into wet clay. They told impossible stories, of kings who ruled for tens of thousands of years, of beings who descended from the sky, of knowledge that preceded all known civilization. When the archaeologists' brush first revealed them in the forgotten chamber beneath the desert sands of Iraq, the air grew suddenly cold. The team felt it, a presence ancient and aware, as if time itself had paused to witness their intrusion. The Sumerian texts called them Anunnaki, those who from heaven to earth came. Modern historians dismissed them as myth, as allegory, as the imaginative constructs of a primitive culture. But the tablets contained measurements of celestial bodies unknown until the invention of the telescope. They detailed genetic procedures impossible to conceive without modern science. Stranger still were the precise coordinates, star maps pointing to worlds only discovered in the last century, worlds that somehow, impossibly, the ancient Sumerians knew existed. What if the oldest stories weren't myths at all? What if the gods who created humanity weren't divine beings but flesh and blood visitors from beyond the stars? And what forbidden truth has been hidden from us for millennia? The story begins in the cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, where humanity's first known cities emerged nearly 7,000 years ago. Here, the Sumerians created the wheel, developed writing, established mathematics, astronomy, and complex social structures that would become the foundation for all human civilization. Yet within their earliest texts lies an unsettling contradiction. The Sumerian king list, a clay document housed now in the Ashmolean Museum, records with methodical precision the reigns of the first rulers of mankind, not for decades or centuries, but for millennia. King Alulim, 20,800 years. King Al-Aljar, 36,000 years. 8 kings ruling for a combined 241 to 200 years before the flood swept over the land. Conventional archaeology dismisses these numbers as symbolic, mythological. But the Sumerians, who invented the sexagesimal system we still use for measuring time, were remarkably precise in their calculations. Their mathematics predicted eclipses and planetary movements with astonishing accuracy. When I first touched the tablet fragments in the British Museum archives, something inexplicable happened, the curator recalled. The room temperature dropped several degrees. The clay felt warm, almost alive beneath my fingers, as though 6 millennia had not passed at all. More perplexing still were the consistent references to the Anunnaki, beings who came from Nibiru, described as the planet of crossing. These weren't vague deities, but entities with names, functions, personalities, technological capabilities, and a complex hierarchy. Enki, Enlil, Inanna, Marduk, overseers of different aspects of early human development. The Sumerians didn't worship these beings as abstract gods, but described them as flesh and blood administrators, mining engineers, genetic scientists. They depicted them wearing what appear to be helmets, wristwatches, carrying weapons. But why would the world's first civilization, emerging supposedly from primitive hunter-gatherer groups, begin its written history not with simple pictographs of daily life, but with sophisticated accounts of genetic manipulation and interplanetary travel? And why does the human genome contain unexplained complexities that geneticists still cannot account for? The contradiction that shattered conventional understanding began in the 1850s, when archaeologists unearthed the Royal Library of Ashurbanipal in Nineveh. Among thousands of clay tablets lay one that would become known as the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic. Within its passages, a cosmic origin story unfolded that bore strange similarities to modern scientific understanding. It described the formation of our solar system through a celestial collision, when a rogue planet called Tiamat was struck by a celestial body named Marduk. The resulting cosmic catastrophe created Earth, the asteroid belt, and comets, a narrative that eerily parallels the current scientific theory of how our moon formed through planetary collision. How could ancient Sumerians have conceptualized a cosmological model that would take modern science until the 20th century to theorize? The mystery deepened in 1976 when Zecharia Sitchin, a controversial scholar of ancient languages, proposed a radical interpretation. The tablets weren't describing mythology but actual events, an advanced civilization from another world, who genetically engineered primitive hominids to create modern humans as a worker species. His translation suggested the Anunnaki came from a planet with an elliptical orbit that brings it near Earth only once every 3,600 years. Academic institutions dismissed Sitchin's interpretations as sensationalist pseudoscience. Yet even mainstream archaeologists couldn't explain away certain anomalies in the record. The Sumerians possessed knowledge they simply shouldn't have had. Their astronomical texts accurately described all planets in our solar system, including Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, impossible to see without powerful telescopes. They knew of Saturn's rings and Jupiter's moons centuries before Galileo. Their mathematical calculations included the value of Pi to several decimal places and the precise measurement of the Great Year, the 25,920-year cycle of Earth's precession. More disturbing were the anatomical and genetic details found in tablets describing the creation of the first humans, a process the Sumerians called mixing the blood. The texts describe a female hominid called Tiamat, whose essence was mixed with the blood of an Anunnaki named Enki to create the first human prototype. The process required 14 birth goddesses. One tablet reads, 7 carried the eggs with the mixed essences. 7 carried the male seeds. The divine Enki himself mixed the clay of life. In 2003, geneticists mapping the human genome were surprised to discover that human DNA contains 223 genes that have no predecessors in the genetic record of primates. Genes that seem to have appeared suddenly, with no evolutionary pathway to explain their presence. In the ruins of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, a sophisticated temple complex built 12,000 years ago, 7,000 years before Stonehenge, archaeologists found depictions of the double helix structure of DNA, carved by people who supposedly had no understanding of genetics. The carvings show humanoid figures flanked by what appear to be DNA strands, with numerical sequences that correspond to the golden ratio. The contradictions multiplied. The Great Pyramid of Giza, supposedly built as a pharaoh's tomb, contains no mummies, no treasures, no hieroglyphics celebrating the ruler it supposedly commemorated. Instead, its internal measurements encode mathematical constants like pi and phi, the speed of light, the precise circumference of Earth, and the exact distance from Earth to the Sun. Its alignment to true north is accurate to within 3/60th of a degree, a precision impossible without satellite technology. More perplexing still are the mysterious watchers described in the Book of Enoch, beings who descended to Earth, taught humans forbidden knowledge, and bred with human women. These accounts mirror Sumerian descriptions of the Anunnaki almost exactly, despite being written in an entirely different time and cultural context. In 1991, a team exploring ancient mines in southern Africa discovered tunnels extending for miles, precisely cut with tools that would challenge modern mining technology. Metallurgical analysis dated the mines to approximately 20,000 BCE, impossibly ancient for any known human civilization. Within these tunnels, they found geometric stone carvings depicting tall beings overseeing smaller human-like figures. The academic establishment maintains these are all coincidences, misinterpretations, or examples of human ingenuity. But the patterns persist across continents, cultures, and millennia. The evidence suggests either that primitive humans spontaneously developed advanced scientific knowledge in multiple isolated locations, noted one researcher, or that something, or someone, shared this knowledge with them. Among the most forbidden texts are the Kolbrin Bible passages, hidden documents preserved by ancient Celtic priests, describing with disturbing clarity the genetic manipulation of early humans. They took the daughters of men and made vessels for the birth of the Nephilim. The mixing of essence was forbidden knowledge, for it opened the doorway between worlds that should remain separate. Why would such diverse ancient cultures, separated by vast distances, independently create nearly identical narratives about advanced beings, creating humans through genetic engineering? And why does the human genome contain what geneticists now call junk DNA? Vast stretches of genetic material that seems to serve no evolutionary purpose, as if parts of our genetic code were deliberately switched off. The conflict between conventional history and the forbidden narrative intensified in December 2017 when the Pentagon officially acknowledged the existence of its secret advanced aerospace threat identification program. For decades, the academic establishment had ridiculed the possibility of advanced beings visiting Earth, the very premise at the heart of ancient Sumerian accounts. Yet simultaneously, astronomers identified the first confirmed interstellar object in our solar system, Oumuamua, whose unexplained acceleration and trajectory defied conventional physics. The object's discoverer, a Harvard astrophysicist, published a peer-reviewed paper suggesting it might be an artificial probe sent from another star system. The scientific community reacted with outrage to this proposition, the same outrage that greets anyone who questions established historical narratives. This pattern of institutional resistance reaches back to 1936, when the Baghdad Museum unearthed a peculiar artifact dating to 250 BCE, a clay jar containing copper cylinders and iron rods that, when replicated by modern engineers, produced an electric current. The Baghdad battery predates the official discovery of electricity by over 2,000 years. Yet academic textbooks remain unchanged, the contradiction unacknowledged. More troubling is the systematic suppression of archaeological anomalies. In 1909, miners in Nampa, Idaho discovered a tiny figurine from clay layers 300 feet below the surface, strata dating to 2 million years ago, impossibly predating all known human civilization. The artifact vanished from the Smithsonian shortly after its examination. This pattern has repeated around the world. In the 1930s, gold prospectors in California discovered human skeletons and artifacts embedded in rock formations 50 million years old. In the 1970s, metallic spheres with precise parallel grooves were found in South Africa, in mineral deposits 2.8 billion years old. Each discovery was initially documented, then quietly removed from scientific discourse. The academic establishment doesn't just disagree with alternative interpretations, observed one archaeologist who requested anonymity. They make careers and funding disappear. The message is clear: challenge the narrative and your professional life ends. The Anunnaki narrative presents particularly difficult questions. The Sumerian texts describe in detail the genetic modification of primitive hominids to create a worker race, modern humans, primarily to mine gold. This bizarre claim finds an unexpected echo in the human genome itself. Unlike every other species on Earth, humans have 46 chromosomes, while all other great apes have 48. Conventional science cannot explain why human chromosomes 2 and 3 appear to have been fused together in our distant evolutionary past. More unsettling are the precise descriptions of genetic engineering in the ancient texts. The Atrahasis, a Babylonian epic from 1700 BCE, details: Enki and the birth goddess Ninmah took 14 pieces of clay. 7 she placed on the right, 7 on the left. Between them she placed the birthing brick. She called forth wise women. 7 created males. 7 created females. This account of creating 7 male and 7 female prototypes aligns disturbingly with modern genetic science, showing that all humans descend from mitochondrial Eve, who lived approximately 200,000 years ago, and Y chromosomal Adam from the same time period, precisely when the Sumerian tablets claim the Anunnaki created the first true humans. The hidden knowledge extends beyond genetics. In the subterranean chambers beneath the Hathor Temple at Dendera, Egypt, reliefs depict what appear to be electric light bulbs with filaments, complete with cables and power generators. Nearby inscriptions speak of eternal light, provided by the gods. When engineers reconstructed the devices according to the temple specifications, they produced functioning electric lights. Even more perplexing is the map of the Creator, a 12,000-year-old slab discovered in the Ural Mountains in 1999. The stone contains a three-dimensional topographical map of the entire Ural region, showing rivers, dams, and irrigation systems that match modern satellite imagery. The precision of the map would require aerial surveillance capabilities that supposedly didn't exist until the 20th century. The atmospheric tension surrounding these discoveries intensifies in isolated research facilities and restricted archaeological sites. At Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, now recognized as the world's oldest temple complex at 12,000 years old, certain chambers remain off-limits to public and academic access. Researchers who gained brief access to these chambers reported finding inscriptions describing the return of the Sky People and the awakening of the suspended knowledge. The concept of suspended knowledge, technology or scientific understanding deliberately hidden until humanity reaches a certain developmental stage, appears repeatedly in ancient texts. The Book of Enoch describes celestial beings who taught men to make swords, knives, shields, breastplates, and revealed to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them. This transfer of advanced knowledge from the Anunnaki to early humans may explain the mysterious knowledge explosion that occurred in Sumer around 3800 BCE, when writing, mathematics, astronomy, agriculture, metallurgy, and architecture seemingly appeared overnight with no developmental precursors. As one researcher noted while examining Sumerian cuneiform tablets at the British Museum, the air feels different around these objects. There's a weight to them, a presence that defies rational explanation. It's as if they're still transmitting something across the millennia, a message we're not quite ready to receive. The message grows clearer in the forbidden archives of the Vatican Library, where ancient Sumerian texts acquired during the Crusades remain untranslated and unpublished. In 1994, a research assistant claimed to have briefly accessed one such tablet describing the Day of Return, when those who fashioned mankind will judge their creation. The date given on the tablet corresponds, in our modern calendar, to December 21st, 2023, the winter solstice when our solar system aligned with the galactic center for the first time in 26,000 years. That date came and went without incident. Or did it? In January 2024, observatories around the world detected an unexplained gravitational anomaly at the edge of our solar system, consistent with a large object on an elliptical orbit. The mainstream scientific community attributed it to measurement error. Within weeks, the data disappeared from public scientific databases. Why would ancient Sumerians accurately predict astronomical alignments thousands of years in the future? How could they possess knowledge of the precession of the equinoxes, a 25,120-year cycle that requires multi-generational observation to detect? And most disturbing of all, if the Anunnaki narrative contains elements of truth, what does it imply about humanity's place in the cosmos? The turning point came in the summer of 2019, when a private archaeological expedition in the remote highlands of Bolivia discovered a sealed chamber beneath the ancient ruins of Pumapunku. The megalithic stones of this pre-Incan site had long puzzled archaeologists, cut with such precision that not even a razor blade can fit between them, displaying evidence of machine tooling that shouldn't have existed in the ancient world. Inside the chamber lay a repository of hammered gold sheets, stacked and preserved in remarkable condition. The sheets, estimated to be over 5,000 years old, contained inscriptions in 3 writing systems: Proto-Sumerian cuneiform, an unknown symbolic script, and most shockingly, binary code, a mathematical language that wouldn't be developed until the 20th century. When deciphered by linguists and computer scientists, the gold sheets revealed what they called the Chronicles of the Suspended Time, a historical account claiming that between 450,000 and 250,000 years ago, beings called the Anunnaki established mining operations on Earth. According to the text, these beings came from a planet called Nibiru, which orbits our sun in a highly elliptical path that brings it near Earth only once every 3,600 years. The Chronicle stated that the Anunnaki first arrived during an ice age when much of Earth's water was frozen in the polar ice caps, exposing vast mineral deposits. They established their first settlement, Eridu, in what would later become Mesopotamia, and mining operations for gold and other minerals in Africa. For thousands of years, the Anunnaki supposedly labored in these mines, but eventually rebelled against their working conditions. Their leader, a being called Enki, proposed a solution. They would create a new species by genetically modifying existing hominids to serve as a workforce. This narrative would be easy to dismiss as mythology if not for the gold sheet's inclusion of a genetic formula, a precise description of the chromosomal modifications required to transform hominid DNA into human DNA. When molecular geneticists examined this formula in 2021, they were stunned to find it accurately described the fusion of chromosomes that differentiates human beings from other primates. The blueprint shouldn't exist, remarked one geneticist. It describes a process of genetic engineering that we've only begun to master in the last decade. Yet here it is on a 5,000-year-old gold sheet, with precision that defies explanation. More revelations emerged from the plains of Nazca, Peru. While the famous Nazca lines have puzzled researchers for decades, new ground-penetrating radar surveys in 2022 revealed something far more significant beneath them. a vast network of chambers and tunnels stretching for miles beneath the desert floor. Within these chambers, researchers discovered preserved organic material, tissue samples that carbon dating placed at approximately 12,000 years old. Initial DNA analysis showed something impossible. The samples contained genetic markers that don't match any known species on Earth. The DNA included artificial sequences that serve as a form of genetic watermark, what one researcher described as a signature left by the Creator. Similar watermarks have been discovered by the Human Genome Project in our own DNA, non-coding sequences once dismissed as junk DNA that follow mathematical patterns too precise to have evolved naturally. These sequences contain embedded geometrical and mathematical information that appears to be a message from our creators, or perhaps a copyright signature left by cosmic geneticists. Parallel discoveries in quantum physics added another dimension to the mystery. In 2020, physicists at CERN detected evidence that human consciousness might exist as a quantum field that interfaces with our physical brains but is not produced by them, supporting the ancient Sumerian concept that the Anunnaki breathed spirit into their human creation, giving them consciousness beyond mere biological function. The convergence of these discoveries with ancient texts became impossible to ignore. The Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the ancient Maya, describes how the maker, modeler, bearer, begetter created humans after multiple failed attempts. The first humans were made of clay, but they were weak and dissolved in water. The second were made of wood, but they lacked souls and withered. Only the third creation, infused with the essence of the gods, survived. This account of multiple prototypes mirrors the Sumerian tablets describing failed experiments before the Anunnaki successfully created viable human specimens, and echoes modern evolutionary theory, showing that several humanoid species coexisted before Homo sapiens became dominant. The hidden Vatican archives yielded another revelation when a researcher gained brief access to a collection of Sumerian cylinders seized during the Crusades. The cylinders contained detailed accounts of an ancient global civilization destroyed in a cataclysm, a civilization centered around a land called Atlantis that possessed advanced technology, including flight, energy weapons, and genetic engineering. According to these texts, the destruction came as punishment when humans attempted to use the forbidden knowledge given to them by certain Anunnaki, who had disobeyed their own laws against interfering with humanity's development. After the cataclysm, surviving Anunnaki allegedly helped rebuild human civilization at key locations including Göbekli Tepe, Pumapunku, and the Giza Plateau, explaining why these sites all display similar advanced stoneworking techniques, despite being constructed on different continents. In the remote mountains of Bucegi, Romania, a classified military expedition in 2003 allegedly discovered a vast underground complex containing holographic technology and a projection room showing the history of Earth and genetic engineering of humanity. Though the Romanian government denies the existence of this complex, satellite imagery reveals unusual thermal anomalies beneath the mountain precisely where witnesses claim the entrance lies. The most compelling evidence emerged in 2023 when advanced imaging techniques revealed hidden chambers beneath the Great Sphinx in Egypt. For decades, geologists had argued that erosion patterns on the Sphinx indicated it was far older than the conventional date of 2500 BCE, possibly dating to the end of the last ice age around 10,000 BCE. The newly discovered chambers contained preserved organic material and artifacts now undergoing classified analysis. Sources within the Egyptian Antiquities Ministry leaked that carbon dating placed the organic material at approximately 36,000 years old, impossibly ancient for any known human civilization. More shocking were the artifacts, metallic objects with properties similar to modern superconductors, and crystal devices that, when exposed to certain frequencies, project three-dimensional images showing anatomically modern humans interacting with tall, humanoid beings. "What we're seeing changes everything we thought we knew about human origins," confided one researcher. The evidence points to intervention, genetic and cultural, by an advanced civilization at multiple points in our prehistory. The revelations extended beyond archaeology into genetics. The Human Genome Project discovered that modern humans possess 223 genes that appear nowhere in the evolutionary record, genes that seem to have been inserted into our DNA approximately 200,000 years ago, exactly when the Sumerian texts claim humans were created. More disturbing is the evidence that these 223 genes appear to have been selectively activated and deactivated throughout human history, as if our creators were running a long-term genetic experiment, gradually unlocking certain capabilities when humanity reached specific developmental stages. The picture emerging from these discoveries suggests a profound and unsettling possibility: that humanity's entire history might be a guided evolution, a developmental program designed by beings so advanced that our ancestors could only comprehend them as gods. But if this is true, a more troubling question emerges. Why were we created? And are our creators still watching us, waiting for us to reach the next stage in their cosmic plan? The convergence of discoveries reached its climax in late 2024, when 3 separate research teams working independently in Egypt, Iraq, and Peru simultaneously unearthed tablets containing identical symbols, a mathematical sequence that repeats across thousands of miles and thousands of years of human civilization. When the sequence was decoded, it revealed something that shattered conventional understanding: a complex quantum equation describing reality itself as a projected consciousness field. The revelation was both devastating and illuminating. The Anunnaki weren't simply genetic engineers who created humanity as a worker species. They were architects of perception who constructed the very fabric of reality as we experience it. The ancient texts suddenly made sense in a new context. The Sumerian phrase commonly translated as "those who from heaven to earth came" more accurately translates as "those who projected heaven onto earth." The Egyptian gods weren't deities but programmers of consciousness, beings who did not create the physical world, but rather created how humans perceive and interact with it. This explains the persistent theme across ancient cultures of reality as illusion, from Plato's cave shadows to Hindu concepts of Maya, to Buddhist emptiness, to the simulation hypothesis of modern physics. These weren't metaphors, but attempts to describe the actual structure of consciousness as designed by the Anunnaki. The most sacred Sumerian texts described how Enki placed the Me in the human mind, with Me traditionally translated as divine powers. But the new translations revealed that Me referred to perception filters, the cognitive frameworks that determine how humans process sensory input and construct their reality. This explains why ancient temples worldwide focused on altering consciousness through architecture, acoustics, and sacred geometry. They weren't merely places of worship, but recalibration centers where humans could temporarily glimpse beyond the perceptual limitations installed in their consciousness, limitations that prevented them from perceiving dimensions of reality accessible to the Anunnaki themselves. The most forbidden knowledge wasn't about creation, but perception, not how humans were made, but how their consciousness was programmed to perceive only a narrow band of potential reality. The gods didn't create the universe. They created the way humans experience the universe. Archaeological evidence supported this revolutionary understanding. At ancient sites worldwide, researchers discovered devices now classified as consciousness modulators, crystalline objects that, when activated by specific sound frequencies, alter brainwave patterns and temporarily expand human perception beyond its programmed limitations. The true purpose of megalithic structures like Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid suddenly became clear. They weren't calendars or tombs, but massive resonance devices designed to amplify cosmic energy and momentarily recalibrate human perception, allowing brief glimpses beyond the perceptual prison installed by our creators. This explains why psychedelics were central to nearly every ancient religious tradition, not as pathways to hallucination, but as temporary disruptors of the perceptual programming, allowing consciousness to briefly perceive reality beyond its designed limitations. Most shocking was the discovery that the Anunnaki consciousness architecture included built-in barriers preventing humans from perceiving the Anunnaki themselves, even when they walk among us. The ancient texts called these veils of forgetting or shields of terror that cause humans to experience cognitive dissonance when encountering evidence of their creators. This perceptual firewall explains why modern humans experience such resistance to the evidence of ancient advanced civilization, not because the evidence isn't compelling, but because our consciousness is programmed to reject it. We literally cannot see what we're programmed not to see. The greatest illusion isn't that reality is a simulation, one researcher noted after experiencing a consciousness modulator. The greatest illusion is that we are separate from our creators. They didn't leave. They never left. We simply cannot perceive their presence because our minds were designed with blind spots precisely where they exist. This revelation explains humanity's strange dual nature, simultaneously capable of profound spiritual insight and technological achievement, yet confined within perceptual limitations that prevent us from unifying these aspects of our consciousness. We are, in essence, quantum beings experiencing ourselves as classical entities, our consciousness artificially constrained to perceive reality through the narrow lens installed by our creators. The ultimate forbidden knowledge isn't that we were created, but that we remain confined within a perceptual prison that prevents us from recognizing our true nature and the true nature of those who designed our minds. But the prison has a flaw. The same tablets that revealed our perceptual confinement also contained instructions for transcending it, a process the Sumerians called awakening the suspended knowledge that would allow humans to perceive reality as the Anunnaki do, and finally meet our creators face to face. In the silence that follows revelation, humanity stands at a crossroads of consciousness. If the forbidden knowledge is true, if our perception itself was engineered by advanced beings, then every assumption about human existence must be reconsidered. We are not merely biological entities shaped by evolution, but conscious expressions of a designed experiment still unfolding across millennia. The implications ripple through every domain of human understanding. Religious traditions worldwide appear not as primitive mythologies but as encoded memories of our creation and programming, each containing fragments of truth about the architects who shaped not just our bodies but our minds. The serpent in Eden wasn't tempting humanity with evil, but with awareness beyond our programmed limitations. Scientific materialism, the foundation of modern thought, emerges as merely another perceptual filter, a framework that allows us to manipulate physical reality while remaining blind to dimensions beyond our programmed awareness. The inexplicable gaps in evolutionary theory, the mysterious origin of consciousness, the anthropic principle in physics, all suddenly make sense not as puzzles awaiting scientific solutions, but as inevitable consequences of our designed perception. The psychological impact of this awakening manifests differently across humanity. Some experience profound liberation, the recognition that we are more than we've been permitted to perceive. Others feel existential terror, the realization that everything we thought was real might be a construct, that our most profound experiences might be predetermined within our consciousness architecture. The knowledge creates a new divide in humanity, between those who choose to awaken to expanded perception and those who prefer the comfort of the reality they've always known. Ancient texts predicted this division, calling it the separation of those who see and those who sleep. Perhaps most profound is the implication for human potential. If our consciousness was designed with artificial limitations, then transcending those limitations might unlock capacities we've glimpsed only in exceptional individuals throughout history. The inexplicable abilities of savants, the healing powers of mystics, the creative genius of artists who briefly perceived beyond the veil. The question facing each individual becomes deeply personal. If you could dissolve the perceptual prison and see reality as it truly exists, beyond the filters installed by your creators, would you choose to do so? Would you risk everything familiar for the truth of your existence? For some, the answer is an emphatic yes. Worldwide, communities now gather at ancient sites, using reconstructed consciousness modulators to temporarily expand their perception. Many report encountering the same beings described in ancient texts, tall, luminous presences that exist just beyond ordinary human perception. Some claim to receive guidance for the next phase of human development. Others approach the forbidden knowledge through modern means, using quantum computing to model consciousness beyond its current limitations, creating technologies that might bridge the gap between human perception and true reality. Technology and spirituality, long divided in human experience, begin to converge toward the same goal, transcending the designed limitations of human awareness. The awakening spreads not through conventional channels, but through direct experience, moments of expanded perception that cannot be denied once encountered. The ancient prophecies speak of this time as the remembering, when humans would finally recognize the nature of their creation and the purpose of their existence. Yet questions remain. If our creators designed our perceptual limitations for a purpose, What happens when we transcend those limitations? Are we fulfilling their ultimate design, or rebelling against it? Did they intend for us to eventually break free of our perceptual prison? Or are we defying their plans by awakening to expanded consciousness? And most unsettling of all, if we transcend the perceptual filters that prevent us from seeing our creators, what else might we discover about the true nature of reality and our place within it? Perhaps the most profound message hidden within the ancient tablets was never about the past, but about the future, about this precise moment in human history when our technological development would finally allow us to recognize the nature of our designed consciousness. The Sumerian texts speak of this time as the Great Awakening, when the children will finally see their creators, and the creators will be known by their children. We stand now at the threshold of that awakening. The forbidden knowledge isn't just an alternative history of human origins, but a doorway to humanity's next evolution, a transformation not of our bodies, but of our perception, our consciousness, our understanding of what it means to be human in a universe far stranger than we've been programmed to perceive. The ancient sites around our world, from Göbekli Tepe to the Giza Plateau, from Puma Punku to Angkor Wat, await not as ruins of a forgotten past, but as activation keys for a future we're only beginning to glimpse. They are not monuments to what we were, but gateways to what we might become. The question facing each of us transcends archaeology, religion, and science. It cuts to the core of existence itself. If you could see beyond the veil of reality as it's been presented to you, if you could perceive dimensions of existence currently hidden from human awareness, would you choose to awaken? And if the Anunnaki never left? If they walk among us still, just beyond the perceptual filters they installed in our consciousness, what would they think of what we've become? Are we evolving as they intended, or are we becoming something they never anticipated? The choice, to remember who we truly are, to awaken to the full spectrum of human consciousness, now rests with each of us. Will you join those seeking the hidden truth? Share your thoughts on this forbidden knowledge, and join us on the journey of awakening that has waited patiently for thousands of years to be remembered.